favorite guitar players are Jimmy. So that's a good name for your kid. So yeah, my name's Cliff Elion. I have a lot of notes because I don't do this often. And hey, thanks for having me here. And boy, you're all real quiet. Okay. But that's okay. It's okay. So I've been involved in music most of my life, guitar-related stuff always. And you know, when I was 14, I borrowed my best friend's acoustic guitar and turned it into an electric guitar. His parents never talked to me again after that. I attended university in South Africa. I did electrical engineering. For my bachelor's degree, I made a drum machine, and this was in 1979, I think, before there were drum machines. I did a postgraduate with musical instruments, analysis of musical instrument tones. We were in a situation where in the engineering lab we had a computer that was shared by all the engineers, and when we ran our FFTs, it took about 3 or 4 hours to shut the whole thing down. Everyone had to go to lunch. Now you can do that on your iPhone or your smartphone in real time, and everyone's got those in their pocket, I assume. Yeah, anyway, that's it. So I'm here to talk about my product and the company. We actually are in production, as Mike mentioned, and how music technology has changed over the past 30 years. It's really computers. Computers have changed music in incredible ways. Home studio recording gear provides capabilities of recording studios that cost millions of dollars and required recording contracts in the old days. Nowadays you can do it in your room, and you know, a company like Capitol Records has actually got caverns under the building where they had reverb chambers. Now you've got a plug-in, you just dial it up, and you can dial up any cathedral or anything in the world on your computer. So that's an enormous change. But that's not to say that the sounds generated by Capitol's caverns aren't sought after and unique, because the old stuff is always better, actually. And it's the same thing with analog and digital. You know, everybody's digital, but people always say, "Wow, I want that analog sound because it's got the warmth and it's got distortion." Digital's really clean. But that doesn't matter because everything's digital anyway, so we'll simulate analog. So this whole thing applies to musical instruments as well. Now, if you can interface your musical instrument to a computer, you can play anything. You can play any instrument sound, banjos, string sections, pianos, brass, whatever. You can also so I've got to show you the next slide then. That's why with this thing. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this is just a digital audio workstation. This is where people do their music recording these days, and it's called DAWs. The most commonly known example, and probably everyone has it on their Mac, is GarageBand. GarageBand actually runs on Macs, iPads, even iPhones, and you can record tracks and all kinds of stuff just on your iPad. Anyway, so what we're all about is MIDI. MIDI is the musical instrument digital interface, and it allows computers and keyboards to talk to each other. MIDI actually has been around since the 1980s when originally it was designed for one keyboard to communicate with another keyboard, and so you could play multiple sounds. Oh, this thing. Keyboard players have had MIDI since 1983, which has given them a great advantage because it's easy to interface a keyboard, because keyboards is just switches, to a computer. So keyboard players have had access to this, and it's actually a huge advantage if you're a musician, a professional who gets hired to go and play gigs, or to a studio, you can play any sound. Guitar players are left with only guitar. So guitars have really struggled with MIDI. So that's why we are here, actually. So in the 1980s, people started to develop.
Sorry, if you want to have a larger screen, you just need to change it to Tiger PowerPoint presentation.
Well, I'll tell you what, you reminded me of something. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I'm in this mode is because I wanted to switch to here and show you my little video. So this is actually So I'm completely out of sequence, but it probably doesn't matter. So this is an introduction video to our product.
Bien sûr, ça diront que nous sommes en plein entre, mais il s'agit ici de littérature, d'écrire et de décrire.
So that's actually that's our product. It's a MIDI guitar. I'm all screwed up now. So let me get that. And now we got full screen. Where's the thing we were talking about?
Down the bottom. A little bit further to
It
the.
looks like the little movie screen
yeah.
right next to 75.
Okay. So the history of MIDI guitars. That what you're seeing there is the capability of someone who knows how to play guitar, but wants to play an organ, and there he was playing an organ without having to learn keyboard. So, okay, so this all started in the early 80s with MIDI, and lots of companies have tried to conquer MIDI on a guitar. But the fundamental problem is that one of the solutions which you see here, this is a Roland MIDI pickup, and the solution is to put a hex pickup under the strings, and each string is analyzed separately, and the pitch is determined in real time. It's converted to MIDI and sent to a computer. The problem is that the low E on a guitar is about 80 hertz, which means it's a 12 milliseconds period, and even the best pitch detectors will take 1, 2, 3, depending on how you play. You end up at 36 milliseconds, so by the time you're playing, it's a delay, it's latency. And it's useful, and Roland have done a great job of keeping it going for 30 years, but it's actually led to a lot of stigma against MIDI guitar. Guitarists say, ooh, I don't want that stuff. And actually it's been slow to adopt. So there's other technology that exists actually at about the same time, an English company called Syntax came up with this thing, which was amazing at the time, but it cost $10,000. And it's based on segmented frets. So each string actually and fret have an individual switch position. The problem with something like that is very costly to make and hard to maintain. And when the strings vibrate, it screws up. So it's also difficult. So my history is I'm a guitar player, and I've not been able to learn to play keyboards with any competency. And when you get to a certain age, no one wants to sit in a room with you for hours and hours writing and composing. And I wanted to take advantage of the computer software, and I bought a keyboard. And it turns out that every 2 weeks I'd have to relearn a D chord because I didn't have time to practice. I was not good at keyboard. And having had experience in the music business, I worked in the music industry. My background is actually, originally my first job was with a guy called Roger Lynn, who invented the digital drum machine. And I worked with Gibson guitars, and there was never really a solution for this, but I never stopped thinking about it because I always wanted to do that. And when smartphones exploded on the market and all these new sensor technologies became available, the idea came to me that we could do this. So let me show you so basically, there were a couple of challenges in our design, and the first is ergonomics. Can guitar players actually play something that doesn't have strings but feels like strings? And that, thinking about it for a long time, the actual solution for that actually came to my mind while I was driving the car, and I happened to have a coffee stirrer in my hand, and I was feeling it, and I thought, wow, you could actually play guitar on this. I wonder if you really can. So So that was actually the genesis. There were a couple of other things we had to accomplish. One is pitch bend is really important in guitar playing. You know, every guitar player. So we had to make a trade-off and say, well, is it worth giving guitar players the ability to play any instrument, but they can't pitch bend? Obviously they'll have a whammy bar and those kind of features, but we decided yes, and so the trade-off is, well, you can't pitch bend, but you can slide, you can do all those other things, but you can play a saxophone and an organ or whatever you want to. So at that point, you know, we had all the ideas. I was familiar with manufacturing in Asia, low-cost techniques, so I started to build some prototypes, and we took them to the NAMM show, looking for what kind of market we could get into. There were actually three markets that I was considering. One is professional guitar players, education and teaching, which I'll tell you about a little later, and the toy market, because we could make a low-cost product. At that time, it was 2009. I know you guys all are current, but we've been doing this for a while. Guitar Hero and Rock Band were huge successes in the music, in the gaming business, and everyone in the music business was actually trying to get on that bandwagon. The NAMM show, which happens in Anaheim every summer, is very, very traditional music. You know, there's drums and saxophones, and you know, even in 2009 they had people playing Guitar Hero, which is kind of a sin to most guitar players. Most guitar players think, well, that is crap. But there were a lot of surveys and implications that people who play Guitar Hero want to play guitar. That's what people were saying. And we found out that's not true, actually. Gamers are gamers and musicians are musicians. But we came up with the idea was to deliver the bridge between games and music. So people could play. So the product actually started out with, we had the markings on the neck. We built cartridges that could interface to Wii and PS3, and people could play Rock Band and Guitar Hero and then plug it into the amplifier and play regular guitar.
That's cool.
So it sounded like a great business plan, you know, where there's a huge market out there, you know, millions of people playing Rock Band. And so we formed a company, we drew a PPM, we started to raise some capital, and ended up working in China for the year, having to get relationships with wireless manufacturers, because we made cartridges that plug into the guitar so that we can do the video games. We had to change the shape of the body a bit, but we targeted towards the video game people. But Guitar Hero really, really blinded us, because the promise of the huge market really helped us raising funds and generating pre-sales, and everyone knew about Guitar Hero. And you know, we got traction in Europe, we got traction in the US, and by August of 2010 we had 30,000 units in production, and we sold about 12,000, we pre-sold about 12,000 units before the end of the year. You know, I spent most of 2009 in China working on that. And I have a note here that says, you know, in hindsight, our first sales that we made on our website were all to guitar players. No guitars for. That should have been a warning sign, but we didn't heed that because it was, you know, everyone was excited. So things started to get out of hand in our company, and the cash was being used up. There was fighting between the shareholders and the CEO. There was fighting between the CEO and customers. It was a bit of madness, and that we were expecting this great Christmas, and all these pressures and trying to get into big box retail, which actually proved really difficult, and all the pressures culminated in rearranging our board and removing the CEO and changing the company completely. Christmas came and went, sales were lackluster, and actually it became obvious at that point that a guitar, even at $199, which is cheap for musical instruments, is actually really expensive for gamers who pay $50 or less for a controller. We even had product, we did sell to some big box, not the best buys, but there were a couple of East Coast big box stores who bought thousands of units. We ended up having to take them back in early 2011. Not only that, and this section I labeled, I guess this is what you call a pivot. So I'm not a business person like some of you guys. In February 2011, Activision pulled the plug on Guitar Hero. So they had this billion-dollar game. They knew they'd saturated the market. They just stopped. Harmonix actually stopped with Rock Band at the same time, and you know, that was the end of that marketplace for us. However, we'd already seen that it's really guitar players who are able to use our product and benefit from it. And so we started to try and push that side of the market. We found some online music retailers and who were interested, but everything had to be scaled down dramatically. You know, from shipments of $1,000 in containers, we started having deliveries of 100, did I say $1,000? I mean 1,000 units. We started having deliveries of 100 units and smaller. So we scaled down the company, we scaled down everything, and it actually worked out quite well. There were several online retailers who were able to take product, repeat sales, and sell online, and it was good. We had a little thing going. But we still had problems because the product had been designed with a video game. We'll go back up one. You can see the product is sort of, you know, it looks professional, but it's got a little bit toyishness in it. So the product had been designed with the video game market in mind, and it lacked many of the features for the professional market. Not only that, the packaging was really targeted towards gamers and very gothic and whatever. So we built the Gen 2. Even though we had raised money, it took a heck of a lot of money to get the first units built and into the country. So we actually had no money at that point. And so, but we had inventory in China, so that was our sort of ace in the hole. We decided to create a Gen 2 product to target the semi-professional and professional music market. We had a pretty significant redesign which involved changing the pickups, rewriting the software, and in fact we eventually changed the neck to that neck design as well, which is it's more sophisticated than the original neck, but we learned some things. And the biggest thing we did was rebrand. We changed the box. I wonder if I have a picture of the box. Yeah, no, okay. This is our current box, which is something that we can actually put in Guitar Center, and it doesn't have that gothic look of video games anymore. The other problem we had was that the 30,000 units in China were a manufacturer who was a toy manufacturer. We weren't confident that they could send us units that met our standards. So what we did was we had them ship all the units here. Well, actually not all. We bought them in containers, about 1,000 at a time. We would bring them into a warehouse. We'd redo the pickups, redo the packaging, and that was our product, the Gen 2. We actually did quite well with that product. It became an A-rated product in Guitar Center, which means they actually put it in every store. We had a great distributor in Europe who continues buying product, and they handled the whole of Europe. So that was where we ended up. One thing about being in the music business is there's always enthusiasm. Everybody loves music, right? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those A guys. I'm kind of like a C guy.
You're doing awesome.
You're doing, yes,
You're
absolutely.
doing
Story, great job.
Fascinating.
Okay.
It's our fault. We don't have enough coffee.
I have too much. So anyway, the fact that everyone loves music translates to people generally want to work for you, work with you, and are motivated. So we had a great team. We were able to grow our Gen 2 sales, and we're currently working through our inventory in China. In 2012, we started a Kickstarter campaign there to fund this. This is a professional version of the guitar. It's a wooden body, and it's targeted at professionals. It's a $1,000 instrument. It has all the controls on a built-in LCD screen, and we're going to actually ship the first one today. So.
Awesome.
Hey.
I knew I could do the applause. And it's actually been a hard road because it's the same problem, funding, the money we raised on Kickstarter wasn't enough, but it's there, and we're going to be shipping today. People are really ready to go. Okay, so my wrap-up is, our company, we're actually at a turning point right now. We've been able to change the way guitar players approach their instrument. We've given guitar players the ability to compete against keyboard players in the music marketplace. We think we've also removed the stigma where people thought MIDI guitar is a no-no. I mean, guitar players use MIDI guitar in their daily musical thing now. And we're moving on to the next stage. We're actually looking for partners because we want to grow the company and take it into the consumer space. We want to exploit the ability to teach with this instrument. What the unique feature of the instrument is that because there are sensors in the fingerboard, and we have some demo programs, the program will actually know where your fingers are before you strum. So you can have software that actually guides the user. Anyway, so that's what we're working on and trying to move toward. Yeah, so we think a whole new marketplace can be reached. There's one other thing about this product and about the music business. We have a lot of users. If you look on YouTube for our product, you see amazing stuff that people have put on there just because they wanted to. People exploring sounds that they never thought they'd ever be able to explore, and things that change the way they play the instruments. The other thing that's been really satisfying is people with disabilities and illness, because the guitar has like a tap mode, and it's actually not hard to push the strings down. People recovering from cancer with chemotherapy don't have strength in their fingers, they're able to play the guitar. And people with arthritis, we recently got a postcard from a musician who hasn't been able to play guitar for 18 years. He found our instrument, and he says, and he's able to compose professionally again. So that's my whole story.
Oh.
Thank you so much, Cliff, for sharing that. I think it's really cool to see how technology is providing solutions to people that story that wrap up with cancer patients or someone with arthritis. They may have an interest in learning or getting back into it because it's their passion, it's their hobby. You're empowering people to do that and also create really unique sounds that are unimaginable, or at least for guitar players, because keyboard enthusiasts have been having access to this stuff for years, which is really cool. So we're going to open up to questions and answers now. You got one from me. Very good. We're going to walk around with the mic. Again, the general format is questions only, comments offline. Cliff will hang out, and you guys can share stories.
Hi, I'm Keith. You basically demonstrated that you can not only build, your passion is for guitars and you want to make a MIDI guitar interface, right? But in reality, you could use this to make any musical instrument. And you can make fanciful, non-physical musical instruments this way. I don't mean strictly non-physical, but instruments that have no acoustic properties of any merit, right?
Yeah.
Have you thought about exploring that space?
I've really been focused on guitars, but a lot of people are doing that kind of thing. If you look at Kickstarter, there's an instrument called an eigenharp, where some guy, and it's just the thing of having switches and different sort of sensors and interface. MIDI is amazing because it's very simple, but it will support simple things like note on, pitch bend, velocity, which is really all you need for basic stuff. And there's amazing instruments out there. People creating. Actually, the guy that I work with, Roger Lynn, he's got an instrument called the Linstrument, which is really a matrix. It's like this, and it's got, I don't know how many. It's got 12 by 20, and you play it just like that. But he's got three-dimensional sensors, so you can modulate as you press harder. And so the ability to change musical instruments is amazing. but I'm stuck in guitars.
All right.
but yeah.
Next question over here.
So you made reference to your guitar also being a teaching instrument. Does that mean that I know there are other guitars out there that have simplified fret patterns for your fingers. Do you have that ability?
There's a bunch of things. Once you have the connection to the software, you can really do anything. Okay? In this guitar, we already have a thing called UROC mode, which it actually, you can load background music into it, and when you turn on UROC mode, it knows what scale, what key that backing track is in. Well, you can turn the backing track on or off, and so it will, when you get to a note that's out of scale, it will give you an sound. So teaching on the instrument there are those kind of features, but what we're actually looking at now is doing more of an interactive with a computer. So you can sit there, look at the computer, and you see on the computer where your fingers are. So it'll show you a D chord, with green dots or yellow dots. And when you put your fingers on them, they'll turn green. So a guide, and with that kind of thing, you can also grade it. You can communicate with a teacher or lessons or whatsoever.
Hi, I'm Chuck. I have a question about your fretboard. I noticed that you have strings across it, or I'm not quite sure if it's stringless or with strings. Is it because you're trying to eliminate the tuning structure of the strings itself, or is it there's a purpose for the frets to have like those delineations?
Strings?
Yeah.
Actually, that's this is just for guidance.
Okay.
So it feels like a guitar. Without the strings, it just doesn't feel like a guitar.
Okay.
And so what we do is we've actually got there's two sides with this side, which gives you the amplitude, and then
I'm gonna play it later.
When you were manufacturing in China, or when you get started manufacturing in China, did you have any issue with copycat products, like the second you got on a plane, finding out that somebody else was doing it?
We didn't. As far as I know, we had some weird things happen though. We were in a factory in a place called Dalan, okay? And in that factory, another company called, I'm trying to remember, 745, or I can't remember. They were actually they were building a video game based on using a guitar based on segmented frets. And in our process, we found that these guys were the floor above us. So theirs actually turned out to be quite a failure because segmented frets are very difficult. But every now and again, I'd find their engineers sneaking into our floor, and like we had one process where we had to ensure that the neck was straight. We had to take burrs off it, and we came up with a special tool. And I remember specifically having to chase them out because they were, on our floor trying to look at our tuning. Unfortunately, the factory didn't care. We tried to do what we could, but they didn't care. But our IP, we actually protect. We have a patent, and no one actually copied exactly what we're doing.
Can you talk a little bit about your Kickstarter, how you raised your funds, and then when you realized you didn't raise enough?
The day after. Kickstarter is a hard thing, actually. And we were very novice. We were very, we didn't really know what to expect. But so we thought we did it right. We calculated, what the product will cost us, and we never really wanted to fund everything. We thought that if we fund a small portion of it, which was actually the redesign of the neck, the company would be able to carry the rest. So that was actually a bad calculation on our part, because I think we sort of assumed that we'd have other funds coming into, that we could just put aside for that. Kickstarter is difficult, and you really have to market it. And I'm not an expert, but we realized that all the guys who were successful, they were successful before they launched it. They had done press releases, they had created all kind of buzz, had made sure they were at all meetings like this. we didn't do any of that. We did a video, and I think we did a press release, right? But it was a difficult process. Yeah.
Over here, Cliff.
Hi, you went through your wilderness period focused on the gaming market, and I'm curious, was that instructive, beneficial? Was it something that you regret? And looking back, how could you have either avoided that or made that a shorter period to the point where you're at now?
Yeah, it's hard to second guess what I would have done. The pivotal moments in all that was, I met up with a guy I knew from a long time ago, and it became his vision. So in some ways, I can say, well, I should have stuck to my vision. Because it really took me off the path of a guitar player's guitar. And as we've gone along, that's always been in the back of my mind. Well, it should be a little more, the shape should be different, we should have made other wood, things like that. But I don't regret it. It's always been a great experience. Everything's learning. I mean, the fact that I had to create a board of directors and fire somebody today, it was a whole new experience for me. So, but I don't know if I want to repeat it.
Over here.
Cliff, you made reference earlier to GarageBand
Yes.
when you first started talking. With your product here, is it something that when you talk about learning, kind of learning how to play, some of the things that you talked about, are you using GarageBand to do that? Do you have a separate software that your company's developed that you actually download onto the computer itself? How does that work?
Yeah, we at this point the software is in development, and actually it's been like a long way because it's something we thought about quite a long time ago. But it's not built into GarageBand. It's a separate program, and the idea is that it can import music files in probably tablature format, which is very common on the internet for guitar players. But it's not always legal. But so you can import it, and it just prints out the song on top. So it's different from GarageBand. However, you can use, the guitar works with GarageBand right now. Obviously, you plug it in, it's USB compatible, and you can. The nice thing about GarageBand is it'll give you music notation output. So it has some of those features, but that's not what you're working with directly.
Over here.
Hi, Cliff. Thanks for being so transparent today. You're doing
That's
awesome.
my problem.
So what joint ventures and types of opportunities are you looking for now?
Well, so what I've learned is that I'm not the business guy, right? I really like doing this, inventing stuff, and that's what I enjoy. But so I'm looking for somebody who can take the product and have a vision and be able to raise money and talk about it and do what is necessary to take us to the next level. I mean, there's a lot of potential, and I've actually discussed things like this with, I know some people at Gibson, but I haven't been able to convince them that yes, it's something they should take on. But I think at some point every guitar player will have a MIDI guitar. It just has to be like every piano player has a keyboard. And so, it will, and I think this is a really good solution, and it can be developed further. So that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be given the ability to develop it further.
One last question.
Hey, Cliff, I'm singing Steve. I actually have a background in classical music. I sang with the Los Angeles Master Chorale. I've traveled the world and done, but I also know the history of classical music. As you probably know, it all started with the lute before the guitar came in, and over centuries, there's been so many different musical instruments. And what's really interesting about this is that Mozart was the first person who started using the clarinet. Without his background, without his endorsing that instrument, the clarinet would have not existed. And the same thing with other instruments as composers who are celebrities in their time. So my question to you is, do you have celebrity? Because it's really interesting, because everybody here knew the name Kanye. And they knew other names, because these are celebrities. These are people that we know from what's going on in the media. So do you have somebody who had a big whale who is endorsing this product?
So that is the whole crux of it. Right, thank you. Yes. No. And we have two problems. We have some really, really great people playing live. We've got a DJ, an Israeli DJ who's amazing, and he actually does his DJ thing, then he jumps on stage with his guitar and plays synthesizer over it. Who else do we have that's big? We just had a guy do a song with John Anderson from Yes, and he actually played the lineage, the new guitar, and it was amazing, it blew my mind. But the problem is, this is not a guitar that professionals like as a guitar. So again,
But you have the other product.
that's why we built this.
Right.
When we built this, the idea was we knew it was going to be expensive, and we knew it wasn't going to be mass market. But we thought it would be, if we can get some big star to play it live,
Right.
it would propel that. So I agree with you. We'd love to do that. And so if you know Mozart,
I've got one more quick question.
Yes.
Hi. So I have this question for you. What is something that you think is the most important thing that you think you thought about like then when you started your business, and you think it's really important to know, and you thought, oh man, I wish I knew this, you know?
I think it goes back to, I mean, it's hard to say that because what I want to say to you is, it's trusting yourself and being able to make choices with the people you work with. And I can say that to you, but I can't be sure that I wouldn't do the same thing again. So you just have to take your time and think about things. But there's also things that if you don't take that step, you will never take the step. So you just got to go at some point and do what you want to do.
Excellent. Thank you so much.